We are going to get started. So glad that you're here. If you are here, you're either a SHIFCO member or a SHIFCO member told you about this event. There's a reason why they told you about this event. We've just concluded about 4 years of research. SHIFCO started 4 years ago, and we've been researching what works, what doesn't work, what's different about conscious business. And you guys are the first ones to see that body of research. Incidentally, we do about 3 events a month that are free and open to the community. We do them because we want to help conscious entrepreneurs, whether they're members or not. On July 23rd next week, we'll be doing authentic selling. And then we also have what we call personal fuel work, which will make a lot more sense here in a minute. On August 8th, there's a very powerful training on called Leap into Prosperity on August 8th. So hope you can make those. My background is I was a corporate executive on the growth side. I became president of an internet company that did an IPO in 1999. That was quite the experience. And then the dot-com bubble burst. And I started another company. I sold it. And then in 2008, 2009, I started over again. I sold that business, started over with this one goal. I want to build a profitable portfolio of companies that made a huge impact. And that's when I started our portfolio, which is called Share on Purpose. Share on Purpose does 2 things. We invest in conscious businesses. This is the first zero waste makeup and skincare line. It's completely zero waste, 100% circular. It's amazing. That's an investment that we've made. We also have what we call the cultivator. The cultivator creates companies. And I have this amazing team that runs these companies for me. Succeed on Purpose was the first concept, then Ignite on Purpose, and then Promote on Purpose, Talent on Purpose. And then we got off of the on purpose names. SHIFCO is business number 5. So that's my background. All of that led me to this taking ownership of the idea that I was a conscious entrepreneur. That started for me in 2010. A very good friend of mine, former client, Carrie Freeman Parsons, is on the board of Conscious Capitalism, Inc. And she introduced me to conscious capitalism in 2010, 2011. And I found my people. It's the only way I could say it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. They have the same values that I do. What I was struggling with is, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, I needed more concrete training is the only way I can describe it. I needed more blocking and tackling. And so I began to build some of those things myself, and with this idea that maybe conscious entrepreneurship was different than entrepreneurship. Maybe conscious entrepreneurship, if your business is under 5 million in revenue, is different than the way that you would operate if your business is larger than 5 million. So that hypothesis I began to play with, and SHIFCO was born in 2020, right around the time of COVID. And this idea of what could we build to support conscious founders that really wanted to take principles from conscious capitalism and B-Lab and things like that, but put them into scalable businesses so they could make a bigger impact. I was kind of doing it without data, external data. And then a study was released from Global Entrepreneurship Monitor in 2022 that basically confirmed my suspicions. I had done some arbitrary research, but I didn't have the body of work that Global Entrepreneurship does. And to make this chart as simple as possible, the scale on the left is what's called TEA, the total entrepreneur activity, particular country. So businesses, are they entrepreneurial founded? 90% is the highest, 0 is the lowest. And they started looking for the reasons why entrepreneurs started ventures beyond the kinds that are started with private equity companies and venture capital firms. The blue line is to make a difference in the world. The orange line is to build great wealth and very high income. As you'll notice, the United States and Canada on the far right, almost 50% of US and Canadian businesses were founded to make a difference. It was based on 2021 research. And many other countries are seeing the same shift if you look at all the blue lines. it was very validating to me that conscious entrepreneurship is real, that there are people like me and more people like me that are choosing to start a business for the primary reason of making a difference, but for the secondary reason of also building a profitable and sustainable business. So I just wanted to put that data out there. And so over the last 4 years, we've compiled a lot of research on our work, as well as things like Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, and what we're able now to define what this psychographic is of a conscious entrepreneur. And so conscious entrepreneurs care about 4 things equally. They are driven by impact. So the work is something that is bigger to them. They're on a mission. They know that this is my work to bring into the world. On the right side of the top, they're purposeful, meaning they're doing work that they really feel like they were born to do. Like for me, I feel like I can't not do this work. I am supposed to be the container for this body of work. They also, on the bottom right, care about personal evolution. And I'm going to show you some statistics from SchiffCo and why that's so important. But a conscious entrepreneur really wants to evolve. They're committed to lifelong learning, but they also want to build profitable and sustainable companies. And so they're not like, they're not kind of playing around with the business idea, that they really do want it to be a thriving enterprise that is profitable. It's not driven by profit, it's driven by impact, but they know that profit is a way to impact. One of my favorite conscious entrepreneurs, James Creedon, that I met through the Dallas chapter of Conscious Capitalism, has a quote. He says, "No money, no mission." And that's what really separates a conscious business from a nonprofit, is conscious businesses really understand the importance of profitable growth, and it's not an either or equation. Now, these 4 things that we've found in our research are the drivers of this psychographic, this individual that is a conscious entrepreneur. It's hard to do this work, and I'm walking proof of that. I've been a successful executive. I've been in startups, helped them go all the way to a NASDAQ IPO. I'd started my own business and sold it. And although it was hard, conscious entrepreneurship is harder, or it feels harder. And I don't think that that's your imagination. I have experienced the last 14 years of my journey as a conscious entrepreneur have been some of the toughest. And so that if it feels hard to you, A, you're not alone, and B, there's some reasons from our research why that is. And one of them is when you're balancing values, purpose, and mission with the need to earn money, that's challenging. I've had situations where I was in a negative cash flow, but I had a client that was treating my employees poorly. And I needed to make a decision. Was I going to put my values first, or was I going to put cash flow first? What did I do? I lowered my salary, fired the client, made sure I continued to pay my employees. And that was a consequence that was hard to make. So this idea that, it's kumbaya, it's not. These money and the need to earn money and the desire to put purpose and mission first, we are faced with conflict about that on a regular basis. At least that's been my experience. The second thing that our research has demonstrated is that who we become is really what drives the business forward. And I have a quote that says, "Your business, our business grows as we evolve." That's been my experience. Whereas in my last venture, which was not a conscious business, it was built to sell, it was built for profit. And I sold it in early 2008, which was great timing. I certainly became a better CEO, but I didn't become a better person. In the last 14 years in this journey, I became a better person and, of course, a better CEO. So what we found is that you can't leave the personal development out, because it's our evolution that really drives things forward. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is what our research indicates and what we're calling the Conscious Entrepreneur Roadmap. We're testing the name, by the way, so we're going to be rolling it out with a couple of different names: intentional entrepreneur, difference maker. But what we're really talking about is how do we go from where we are today to increasing our impact, not necessarily being about growth for growth's sake, but increasing our impact. And the two steps between where you are today and increasing your impact are, one, where do you need to focus? And so today I'm going to give you what we call the formula, and it's 4 areas that you can identify for yourself where you feel like you need to focus. And then second, from our research, from having studied our members and having studied what works with our members, we're going to talk about what do you need to learn in order to increase your impact. So that's the journey that we're going to go on. And what our research has shown you, and I'll show you our results in a minute, is the most important driver is a commitment to personal evolution. And then after that, there are 3 also very important things. Purpose, and I'm going to be talking differently about purpose today than maybe you've heard in the past. Value and understanding what that means, and then growth. So it's 4 things: commitment to personal evolution, purpose, and a way to put your purpose in the forefront, understanding value, the value equation, and then growth. And that combination is what increases impact. So, and it's the combination that I think makes this journey of conscious entrepreneurship very different. In my past life as I would say, non-conscious entrepreneur, when I built a very successful growth strategy firm and sold it in early 2008, it was value and growth. Who I became in the process was not that important. The purpose of the company, it was designed to be sold, and exited. I built it to exit, and experience that. That is very different than this journey as a conscious entrepreneur. So these 4 things, I'm going to be talking about how these 4 things fit together for how do you go from where you are to increasing your impact. We'll start first with the purpose of a different way to look at purpose. So we all know about purpose. We've all read, I'm sure, the whole concept of the power of why. But we did something very different when we started ShiftCo. Our purpose was very clear to us. And we knew what the purpose was, which was to basically help businesses like yours increase their impact. But what we've learned is that purpose is a verb. It's not a noun. And too often we use the statement for whatever our purpose statement is as, well, that's our purpose. But we really forget the action that we need to take behind it. And well, if we were born to fulfill this purpose, and purpose is something we can't do, our why is really clear. The challenge, though, is staying on purpose, and then secondly, staying in action in a purposeful way. And what I found is that purposeful work increases our resiliency and dedication. It is fulfilling no matter what, but the difference that we make doesn't happen unless we measure it. And that was the big breakthrough about 18 months into founding ShiftCo. We already had our purpose statement. We were already thinking about it. We had our values, but we weren't measuring our impact. We weren't measuring purpose and whether or not we were living our purpose. And what we found is when we measure our purpose and respond accordingly, meaning we change our actions, that's when we increase our value to our customers. This was a big, big breakthrough. And I'm going to show you the statistics because purpose can be measured. So ShiftCo's purpose is to support the development of conscious entrepreneurs and building socially and environmentally friendly businesses. That's our stated purpose in our incorporation papers. It's on our website. It's something we talked about. But when we measured our success, just a tad bit over a year in, we had found that only 53.4% of our members, we call this the member success ratio, had increased their revenue about 18 months in. So we were like, okay, we're only living our purpose with half of our members. That's not okay. And that's the verb part. We took that purpose statement and we said, what do we need to do differently? What needs to change? And we made some changes. And a year later, that number was 77%. So clearly those changes worked. And then as of right now, we're almost at our 4-year anniversary. We're at right about 85% of our members have doubled. Now, I'm proud of those statistics, but what I'm more proud of is that we used purpose as a verb. We use this measurement of purpose to change our actions. We used it to determine what resources members need to grow their business. We look at the members that don't double their business, that 15%, we look at them and we ask ourselves tough questions about them. What do they need? Where are we falling short? Which part of the program isn't working for them? And we evaluate the quality of all programs quarterly because we measure our purpose. So what we found in our research is purpose is a verb. And it's not just a why statement. It's not something, it certainly is a beam of light for me. But when you measure it and you take action accordingly, that's when purpose translates into value, which of course is the next part of this formula that we found from our research, is when you combine your personal evolution with purpose that is measured and you're actually able to make changes in the business. And by the way, for me, that has been a challenge because I'm a grow girl, right? I'm like, grow it, boom, pedal to the metal. And I wanted to speed up the growth. And our board is saying, we got to slow down the growth because we're not fulfilling our mission. We're not fulfilling our purpose. Only 54%, right on 50% of our members are increasing the size of their business, increasing their impact. We got to slow down. And so it was challenges like that that really helped me understand how important it is to measure purpose. But what I realized in the process of doing that, my own personal evolution, that growth is not the only thing that matters. And purpose matters when it's measured and you can act on it, is the value, our contribution has gone up. We are estimating we've helped our members generate over $30 million of increased revenue over the last 4 years. That's an incredible value. So this idea that when we choose to evolve and we prioritize that, when we place emphasis on purpose and see it as a verb that we act on, and we measure to know where to act, the value equation goes up. So let's talk about that. I want you to think for a second what value is. The technical definition is value is benefits divided by cost. And when buyers buy from us, they are evaluating on the front end of the sale, what are the perceived benefits and what am I going to pay for those benefits? And they're making this value equation all the time. Well, buyers make this decision, this value equation 3 times. They make it before they buy, they make it right after they buy, and then they typically make it a period after 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. What we saw is our members were making the determination between 6 and 12 months. Did I get value on my membership? So one of the things I would encourage you to do is to look at your business. Are you measuring your purpose? Are you acting on it? And if you are, how can you begin to really understand the value equation for the customers you serve? Some things you might want to think about is who and where is your target market? What is their problem? We thought our members, the problem was one thing, it ended up being something else. So that was important to learn. Third is, what are the benefits that target market wants and will pay for? And a high value equation, and this is a very important piece to the growth side of it, when there is a high value equation, it ensures that your business grows organically and customers stay and or buy again. So what we ultimately want to do by personal evolution and purpose is increase the overall value equation. And that aspect of the value equation matters more in conscious business than it does in any kind of business. Let me give you an example of that. I can tell very quickly when I'm going to make a purchase whether or not I'm dealing with a conscious business and a conscious founder. I can tell by the way they market. I can tell by the way they sell. I can tell whether or not they lock me into some long-term thing. I can tell from how they treat me after I've signed the contract. So this idea that this value equation, it doesn't stop on the marketing side. And in my old life, the value equation stopped on the marketing side. In a conscious business, it continues. So we want to use our business as a force for good. We're driven to use our business to make the world better. We want the business to be a vehicle to solve important problems. If that's the case, what we have to really understand is, what is our buyer's value equation? What are the benefits that they're looking for the cost? And what I've learned about this is, none of the reasons that I started ShiftCo, none of them are the reason that causes somebody to buy. And the same is true for your business. That doing that customer-centric research and understanding what your buyer's value equation is, what are the benefits they're looking for? What are the problems that they're looking for you to solve? And how are they measuring what you're charging them? When you know that value equation, it changes the way you can market to them. It changes the way you serve them right after they purchase. And more importantly, it changes the way you serve them in the ongoing relationship that you have with them. And when that changes, what starts to happen is your referrals go way up. Your repeat engagement rate goes way up. And that perspective of value allows you to fulfill your mission and live your impact. Which brings me to the last part, and that is growth. My grandfather was my first entrepreneurial mentor, and he was an amazing man, and he taught me many, many things about profit. Profit is the tip your customers give you when you serve them well. But he also taught me, when he shut his business down, he said, Terri, businesses of all types, even mine, he had a community-based business. It was a juice bar in Sarasota, Florida. And he loved this juice bar. And he said, businesses are in the process of growing or dying. And so if your business isn't growing, it is going to die. And I watched this man who I adored shut the doors and lock the doors on this little tiny juice bar on Main Street in Sarasota, Florida, because his business wasn't growing. And it wasn't growing because my grandmother had cancer and he was taking care of her. I get very choked up when I think about this. And he knew he needed to make a choice. And the choice was, he was going to care for her. And he was going to find another way to pay the bills. So this idea that if your business isn't growing, your business is dying, has been with me from the beginning. The challenge when I became a conscious entrepreneur is, somehow part of me thought, nah, that doesn't really apply. I can grow slower and I can kind of slide back. But I can tell you that is not true. I'm going to show you another body of research here in a minute about the different phases businesses go through and why growth matters, not for the sake of growth, but for the sake of health in the business. So what we found is that businesses must grow to increase impact, period. They must increase their revenue to increase impact. That doesn't mean it's, has to grow, but the business has to increase its revenue if we want to increase our impact. More importantly, we need to improve the scalability of the business. Anytime I've had a business slide back, it affected the scalability of the business. And third is, I don't know about you, but I want to find ways to reduce the time that I'm working in the business so that I can enjoy it more. So those are the three reasons why the business must grow. But what I found from our research is that there's distinct ways that your business will grow and where you will struggle with grow as you scale your impact. The analogy is thinking about a rock climber. So when a rock climber is scaling a rock or a mountain, they don't just go straight up. They do this shimmy, right, left, right, left. And that when something feels hard, so when a rock climber is like, this is right. What they do is they usually will go down a step, and they'll look back and they'll say, okay, I was going the hard way. Maybe there's an easier way to do this. So they take a step back, take a step down, and they look for a more simple step. And building a business always feels hard, even when it's purposeful, as I talked about, but we can simplify it. And that's what this research will show you. So this idea of business simple, how do we make it more simple, is we boil a business down to its two important ingredients: supply and demand. In between supply and demand is that little purple bar, and that purple bar is called the fulcrum. That's what we've named it. And the fulcrum is like the center of a seesaw that balances the pressure. And the fulcrum is the pressure point between two opposing forces, supply and demand, in your business. So demand is revenue. How much revenue do you have coming in? And supply is how are you servicing that revenue through inventory or service capacity. So what we found in our research is there's very different ways that a business grows based on the size of the business. So if your business is under 10K a month, it's going to look more like this purple line. And it's like a giant roller coaster of ups and downs. Get the work, do the work, get the work, do the work. And we get stuck in this get the work, do the work, get the work, do the work. And the business really needs to move beyond 10K a month in order to get out of that treadmill feeling that a business has. A business under 10K a month can feel a bit like a treadmill. It can wear us out. So under 10K a month, we need to scale the business in such a way that we're increasing this balance between the fulcrum, supply and demand. The second level is 10 to 30K, and we call this phase shape. This is a very difficult phase. It has repeated ups and downs that are frustrating, but also very evolutionary. And so the business growth looks like this. It looks like these loops. I have two businesses in this phase right now, not very fun at all. And it will feel very much like Groundhog Day. And so what you've got to do is you have to figure out where do I need to focus and shape the business to get it through that, so that it's not experiencing those ups and downs. So that's the second phase. The third phase is on your way to $1 million, and that's 30K a month. What our research has found is that conscious entrepreneurs can stop here. It is really hard if they stop below 10K a month. It's really hard to have the business continue to increase its impact, but you can stop here if you don't want to scale the business to the next phase, and you can slowly increase the impact once you get through these little loops here, or you can move to the next phase and what we call build. And build, it feels more like climbing stairs. There's dips, but they end up being minor and short-lived unless you make big changes in the business. So our research has indicated that you scale businesses very differently depending on where your revenue level is, and you have to focus on different things, but you can simplify it by simply finding ways to balance supply and demand. And that's what we call business simple. So business simple is really the fulcrum, is the pressure point. So if you're feeling that fulcrum, if you're in one of those three fulcrums, that's why it feels so hard. You're not alone. As many times as I've been doing it, I still have two businesses in that second fulcrum. I've got a third business in the third fulcrum. It feels hard. It is pressure, just like that fulcrum on a seesaw, balancing. It's very tricky. Demand is the business revenue, and supply is how you service that revenue through inventory and or service capacity. Okay, so how do you do that? Hopefully by now you've been thinking about the formula that we talked about and where you need to focus. If you're here, personal evolution is something I'm sure you're already committed to. Maybe it's figuring out how to measure your purpose. Maybe it's really understanding that value equation from your buyer's perspective, or it could be growth. And let's start with the supply side of growth, and then we'll do the demand side of growth. There's 5 ways that you fix the supply side of growth. 1 is you can simplify your product offering. 2 is add people and resources. 3 is evaluate pricing and profits. What I find in most conscious businesses is they're underpriced. And that's why the business isn't scaling. 4 is process, and 5 is developing partnerships. And so when you're identifying how to scale the business, you want to identify the different ways that you can scale the operations and supply side. And then when you get time back, you want to put that time into demand gen. And that will be the last part of the growth. And then I'm going to wrap up and we'll take a few questions. So there's 4 steps to increase demand in your business: awareness, interest, desire, and act. We treat those as relationships rather than click funnels and lead magnets and all that kind of stuff. We treat everything as relational marketing, relational demand generation. And so what I have found is that 70% of your time really needs to be spent in awareness building. And that is, that can be very frustrating because it just feels like, oh, I'm doing the awareness and it's not going anywhere. There's a big drop off between aware and interest. And so that's why you need to do so much awareness building. And then 25% needs to be spent on working with the people that are interested, because buyers don't buy. They're not transactional buyers in the conscious space. They really want a relationship with you. So 25% of your time should be spent really working with and the followers, connecting with them. And then 5% is closing and building relationships on an ongoing basis. But that 70% and 25% is where the tricky part is when I want to grow my business, I want more clients. But what you really have to be doing is you have to increase. You need probably 3 to 5 times more awareness than you have today to double your business. And doubling your business isn't the only way, but it's just a statistic that we now know for sure. You need about 3 to 5x more awareness if you want to double your business in 12 months. So 70% of your time really needs to be spent there. And then the beautiful thing is, if the value is high, customers will return and they will refer new business to you. And that's what makes the whole equation easier when you're scaling your business. The last tip for you is came from, I was on a board of an organization that taught professional athletes how to build businesses. And they did a lot of research that I got to see. It was amazing. And I coined some of their research the athlete's advantage. Athletes are 3 times more successful as entrepreneurs than non-athletes, interestingly enough. And I was really curious why that was and started consuming the research. And really it's because athletes have trained their mind, their body, their emotion to make moves rather than be in motion. So an athlete makes moves. I'm dribbling the ball down the court. I'm passing the ball. I know where I'm going. Football is coming up here pretty soon, so I know where the lines on the field are. And so athletes have conditioned their mind, their body, and their heart to make moves so they don't waste time and energy. And non-athletes tend to be in motion. They're acting, they're doing stuff, but it's not productive. And so this idea to train yourself to make moves is very important. And what our research has found is, if you can break those awareness building activities into small moves and dedicate each day, I have an hour a day for each of the businesses that I'm growing, an hour a day dedicated. And during that hour, sometimes 2, I make 3 good moves per day. 3 good moves per day. It's not the big, woo, something is working. It's just the discipline day in and day out of making 3 good moves per day. First meeting on my calendar is what are my 3 good moves today? It's first meeting I have with myself. And then I look at my calendar and I schedule those moves in around the other activities that I have. And when that time block comes up, I put my phone up, I turn my email off, and I'm focused on moving the demand side of the business and moving my business forward. So I'll just tie it all together. If you want to scale your impact, it's purpose plus value plus growth equals impact and your personal evolution. Our research has shown that our business as conscious entrepreneurs grow as we evolve. That's the power Please let us know how we can support you in increasing your impact. I hope that you'll join us for authentic selling and or leap into prosperity. So glad you're here for the beginning of the research that we'll be sharing. And I'm going to stop the recording and see if there are any questions and or